Things I wish I knew about healing and stepping into feminine energy that completely changed my life. Ignore my hair and my outfit. I just got back from a really long walk and it's freezing and rainy and windy outside. And yeah, I was out and I just really needed to come on here and say what I was thinking about the whole walk. I kind of want to give you some background information about me and my life because I think that it kind of resonates with a lot of people from what I see on here. So I've been in like fight or flight mode basically my entire life, especially since I had kids. And I had kids, I'm a teen mom, so I was a very young mom. And due to that, I lost like all of my independence. During that time, I had been told, like, hey, you'll do what I say. I have control over you because if it weren't for me, you wouldn't have this. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, one day, you'll never be able to say that to me again. And nobody will ever say that to me again. This like enraged me. And then I became in competition with men for the majority of the rest of my life. I told myself that one day I was going to be working, I was going to make more money, I was going to be smarter, I was going to have better things, I was going to be in control of myself, and that I didn't need anybody. You know, years went by and a tragedy happened to me, and then I was forced to be in the workplace. And I had this job that I didn't love and I wasn't proud of. And I told myself that one day I want a career and I'm going to work really hard at it and I'm going to be very successful. I just wasn't sure how I was going to get there. But I had faith that I would. During this time, I ended up having a couple of kids and, continuously getting in these relationships where they were controlling and, abusive and XYZ. But when I started making my own money, it felt really good. And I told myself I would never rely on anybody ever again. I ended up getting into my longest relationship with a man who was very supportive of my independence and my goals and my dreams and anything that I wanted to do. He knew that I had a lot of trauma and had a lot of things going on from things in my past, and he was very patient and understanding with me. I ended up having an opportunity where I could go to school in a different city and build my career and make something of myself. And I put my full energy and effort into that, not just for me, but for the future of my kids, because that was what was important to me. Everything else was on the back burner. And unfortunately, when you put your relationship on the back burner, it eventually falls apart because relationships are super important. You have to work on it every single day. And I didn't. All I wanted to do was just hustle and be the best I possibly could at my career. I think because I had such a high drive and ambition and I was fueled from rage, it kind of made me like look down on the men that I was with because it seemed like they didn't have that same drive, I guess. And I guess I kind of like emasculated them to try to, I don't know, like bully them into becoming as great as I was. Because if I could go through everything that I went through and still come out on top, so could you. I guess sometimes I just don't have like tolerance for laziness. I don't like to be one of those people that makes like excuses. But like everybody is on their own path. Everybody has their own traumas. Everybody has their own thing. You just need to be patient and understanding about that. I learned that later. Anyways, in 2022, my marriage fell apart. And then my whole world fell apart because that was my person, my partner, my whole life. They were my backbone. I relied on this person for a lot of emotional support and support in every way, honestly. All along, I wasn't putting in the work that I needed to put in to be a better partner as well because I was so focused on my hustle because I just so badly wanted to create a beautiful life for my kids and a life that I didn't have to escape from. I just wanted to stop running. I wanted to feel safe and I wanted to create that safety with money and success. So when he left, I never felt so unsafe in my life. And I was like, what in the world am I going to do? Like, I panicked. I lost it. All the while trying to like keep it together and not show that I lost it to my clients and to my children. During this time, I was super mad at the universe and I cut everybody out of my life. I isolated myself from everybody because I didn't want to feel hurt and pain anymore. I had no friends, no family, no support system. I just had my job and my kids. When he left, I was royally screwed. I no longer had the job and I no longer had financial stability. And I was going on this big trip with my kid and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I needed to move because I couldn't afford the place that I was in by myself. We had had plans to end things on a civil matter that when I go on my trip with my son, that my ex would house sit like our pets in the house and, end up driving me to the city so that I could fly out to go on my vacation to visit my family. Then he ghosted me and I was screwed. I had no job, no money, no way to get to the city because I didn't drive on the highway at the time, nobody to watch my pets in my house, and I was letting my son down. I was devastated. And then I had to move. And I'll never forget it. The day before I was supposed to go on my trip, I had said to my neighbor, who's a good friend of mine now, I had told her everything that was going on, like the bare minimum of it. And I was like, I can't go on my trip. Like, I don't have anybody to watch my house. I don't have anybody to drive me to the city. I can't fly out. I have no money. Like, I don't know if my ex is going to pay his portion of the bills like he said he would. And now I'm probably stuck with moving and have another place to pay for, but this one too. And it's just a mess. And I don't have any money. And I remember I was literally like crying in my bathtub at the time. And I was telling her this. And she texted me and she was like, just manifest it. And I was like, you are so full of it, whatever. That's not helpful. Anyways, I love ice cream, so she randomly puts an ice cream on my step and tells my son to just go bring it to me, and I ate it in the bathtub and cried. I remember praying and I was like, you know what, God, if I am meant to go on this trip tomorrow, then it's meant to be. If not, it wasn't meant to be, whatever. And I let it go. And I just moved on with my day and I went to bed. The literal next afternoon, my neighbor texts me and she was like, if you can be ready in the next hour, I will literally drive you to the city in your car and drive it back, and I will house sit your house for you while you're gone. And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm gonna have to like pay her, and I don't know where I'm gonna get this money. But I was like, whatever, I gotta go. Like, I can't waste my trip, right? Like, I don't want to disappoint my son. So I had nothing packed, and I packed our bags as quick as I possibly could. In this time, I literally got $15,000 deposited into my bank account. I shit you not. And it was literally, I got an email from my bank saying, hey, you've randomly been pre approved for a line of credit. And I was like, yes, right now. I went to the bank, got the money, and we took off and drove 4 hours to the city. During this time, my ex did, in fact, not pay any of his portion of the bills. So I had to pay all the bills and the rent for the other place, and then pay the rent and damage deposit and bills for my new place, and then all the bills with house sitting and yada yada yada, whatever. But I had the money, so I was happy. I also got offered a job and I bought all new furniture, and yeah, it was really good. And the weirdest thing was this job kind of came to me out of nowhere, where this friend of mine who I hadn't talked to in a couple of years reached out randomly and offered me this job out of the blue. And you're probably thinking to yourself, what the hell does all of this even have anything to do with feminine energy and healing? I'll get there. I'll get there. I just need to tell you the backstory. So, anyways, during this time, I started this job when I came back from my vacation. Everything went well, and things were really good for like a year and a half. And I had always been the type of person that would just stay in bad situations out of fear and not having any safety and thinking that I was safe at that point instead of just leaving and going into the unknown. I developed a really close friendship with this person, which I still am to this day. She's one of my best friends. And there was a point in time where upper management was being extremely abusive to her when she was going through a really hard time in her life, when some really bad stuff had happened to her. And that just didn't sit right with me. And being afraid and thinking to myself, like, okay, I'm the sole provider for my kids and I need to have a job and I can't just leave and quit and go do whatever. But I just did not feel right. I was like, I cannot work for people like this who are going to treat one of my best friends so awful. I don't want to work for people like that. That's against my morals. That's against my values. Absolutely not. So I was done. Part 2 on healing my feminine energy and healing myself. As I was saying, it felt really good to stand in my power and stand in my boundaries, that I wouldn't work for people who treated other people like garbage, because I know how that feels. And sometimes you need somebody in your corner to stick up for you when you're at a low, and she was. Anyways, it was terrifying for me to be able to like take the leap of faith to just jump jobs and everything else, considering, like I said, I was the sole provider for my kids, and that's kind of risky. I was safe where I was at. I was working really hard on trying to like heal my traumas and fix things, but I still was in, you know, fight or flight mode because of a lot of things. I was really scared for everything that I did and extremely cautious because I didn't want to screw anything up and let my kids down or hurt them or traumatize them in any way. During this time, we had went to a couple of job interviews and walked in and, got job offers for both of them. So yeah, that was cool. I knew that somehow it would work out. We ended up taking a job and worked there for a short period of time because, again, the vibe was really off, and I had to listen to my intuition and trust my gut and move on to the next place. This was also me like working on my boundaries and standing in my own power and telling myself that I just don't have to be abused, and I don't have to watch other people be abused, and I don't have to take anybody's shit. And that no matter what, the universe will always make it happen. It will provide, and I've seen this happen. This has happened to me before. It always works out. But in the same time, like the last year of, the split of my marriage and the 2 years that I was single and by myself, it was a really hard time for me because, like I said, I was literally cautious of every single thing that I did and every dime that I spent and everything, because I wanted to make sure that I had money to provide my kids a life and give them everything that they wanted. But this was like a really big burden to carry, right? Like I was extremely burnt out because all I did was work. I had no friends, I had no family, I had nothing but my job and my kids, and I was exhausted. So exhausted that I was literally making myself sick. It was just like illness after illness after illness because I was just worn out. I remember when my kids were like gone to school or it was like nighttime, I would just cry and cry and cry and just be like, please God, let me feel safe. Like my world is falling apart. And I was always looking for like the worst case scenario, right? Like I was always paranoid and like scared that something would happen. And this is how, when you focus on things, that's exactly what will happen to you. So one night something happened with one of my kids and I lost it. I just broke down mentally and I was like, I don't know what to do. I cried and cried and cried all night and couldn't sleep and couldn't eat. Again, I had no help and I had no support system. Don't do that. Have a support system. Anyways, I called my sister. I remember it was like midnight that night. I called her and she's a couple hours away. So God love her that she actually like talked to me. She knew I needed it. Anyways, I had told her literally everything that had happened to me over the last 3 years that I hadn't told anybody. Everything that I went through, I didn't tell anybody. And I told her how I felt and I told her what was going on. I told her all the work that I was doing with like healing myself and my traumas and everything else. She said to me over the phone, she was like, it's great that you're healing and you're doing all of this work. That's wonderful. But at what point do you let it go? And I was like, let it go. And she's like, yeah, like you have to let it go. Because if you don't let it go and you just keep bringing it up and bringing it up, you're literally projecting that on everybody around you. And that's what's going to cause trauma to your kids. And I know that you don't want to do that. And I broke down and I was like, oh my God, without even knowing this, maybe I am causing them trauma just from being paranoid and not wanting anything to happen to them. And, you know, I remember I couldn't sleep for like the whole next day and I was just sick and I was miserable and I just didn't know what to do with myself. I was panicked. I ended up going to sleep for like 15 hours straight, which I never do. And I woke up like rebirthed. I was like, I'm going to change my life and I'm going to heal literally everything and I'm going to let it go. I reconnected with all of my family, all of my friends, and let go of the past hurts that I had from my ex and from my family stuff and from all the other trauma that I had in my life. I just chose to put it down. And I was on a high. And everybody around me that I invited into my life at that time, invited back into my life, were super supportive and super happy to have me there. which was wonderful. I remember my oldest son looked at me and he's like, "Are you okay?" Like, legit. I was like, "I've never been better." Literally the next week after letting go of all of this trauma and pain that I was holding on to for so long, I was gifted like thousands of dollars. I had an amazing Christmas after. I met my ex partner. I went on like this health journey and lost a bunch of weight. Things were going amazing with my kids. Everything was great until it wasn't. One thing about the universe is if you have had this way of thinking, this perspective for so long, it'll test you to see how serious you are about it, how serious you are about letting it go. So, this new relationship was good until it wasn't, because this person had like extreme anxious attachment and it was bad. And I was made to be the villain for wanting independence. Anyway, a lot of the things that he said and did, I kind of looked back on it and was like, oh, maybe I acted this way towards my long term partner in my marriage, especially at the end, which caused him to do a lot of the things that he did. And I remember saying, like, okay, God, I learned the lesson. I get it. I get it. Like, this is reflecting back at me. You know, this person caused me a lot of trauma, and I stopped exercising. I started like binge eating, and I wasn't taking care of myself, and I gained like 30 pounds in 3 months, and I was just miserable. I like lost myself. I was scared to like leave the house, but I stood my ground on keeping him out of my life. Then somebody walked into my life that was super empathetic and patient and generous and kind and loving. But again, I was still focused on this work stuff. I was just exhausted and I just wasn't taking care of myself at all. I was just eating a lot of really bad foods and just laying around and just being like mentally miserable. And I just got a bunch of illnesses and it was like sickness after sickness after sickness after sickness. And it was horrible. I just couldn't catch a break. And my mental health just literally went down the drain. And I was like, what am I doing? Something's got to give. And it just like clicked to me that like the reason I'm sick is because I'm just not taking care of myself in any way. And I'm not prioritizing the things that actually matter, just my relationship. And I think that I was prioritizing my kids, but at the same time, I was prioritizing being at work because that's where I would spend most of my time. Because I thought to myself, if I have money, then I can give my kids everything. Kids don't care about money, they want you. That's when I decided to make the change that I need to like step back into my feminine energy and do things that feel good to me and do things that make me happy. And what used to make me happy was exercising, going for walks all the time, and watching what I ate and taking care of myself and self care and cleaning my house, spending time with my kids, cooking and gardening and doing all of the things. I love being creative and I love trying new things and I like to read. And I've been really prioritizing that. And now that the weather is nicer, I love the sunshine, I love the warmth. So I have been outside enjoying the sun for so many hours a day. I stopped going on social media except for TikTok, which and YouTube, which I find I'm very cautious about what I watch. It all is very self improvement stuff. And I prioritize my relationship and my partner. I realize it's just not about me and my fears and all that garbage and my traumas of the past. Like, this is another person that, you have to take into account. And I prioritized quality time with him. And instead of nagging and complaining when he has an issue, I just listen. I don't give him solutions, I just listen. And I reassure him and I tell him that he will figure it out and that he always does. And he's great at that. And he does. He doesn't want me to solve his problems. I prioritize kindness and empathy and appreciation, gratitude, all of the things, and praise. Because that's one thing that my boys taught me is to just praise instead of being angry that I have to do it and that they just don't automatically want to do something. Praising really helps because that motivates somebody to want to do better, to want to do more for you. But it also just feels good to be able to be kind to somebody and praise them for their achievements, because I would never look at my kids and just nag them and say, well, you could have did better. Like, or you should have known that, or that's bare minimum. Like, no, I would never do that to my kids. So why do it to your partner? Criticizing and nagging just pushes the other person away. Part 3 on healing my feminine energy. Something that kind of resonated with me, when I thought about it was what's the whole reason why people post things online? Is to look for like validation and attention, right? Not necessarily in a bad way, right? Like if you're posting a picture of your vacation that you're on with your kids, like you obviously want people to respond to it and be like, "Oh, I hope you're having a great time," or "This is wonderful," or you look like you're having so much fun," blah blah blah. But if people commented on that and was like, "Oh, must be nice," or "You could have went on vacation a better time," or just like criticizing and nagging like literally everything that you're doing, right? Like who cares? Nobody wants to feel that way. That's horrible. So why do it to your partner? Why? I realize that a lot of men just want to feel appreciated. And why not? Honestly, it makes me feel good to appreciate somebody, to praise them. Whereas before it felt annoying and I was just like, well, you should be doing this. That's bare minimum. It just gives off such a like bitchy, ignorant vibe. And it's like, who wants to do stuff for somebody when they act like that? That's just not showing appreciation. That's like if my kid came home and was like, hey, I got 90% on a test. And I was like, what happened to the other 10%? Why didn't you get 100? Like that's not going to motivate them to do better because they're proud of that. Ever since I started practicing this, every little thing that my man does, and I can tell when he's looking for like a little bit of like appreciation for the little things that he does, I always praise him. And not in like a fake like type of way. Like I'm like, thank you. Thank you for doing that for me. I really appreciate that you took that time out of your day. And everything that you do, you put your heart and soul into and you do an amazing job. But I knew you would. And just the feeling that that person has after, it feels good to me to say it. Whereas before I was annoyed. Now I feel good being kind like that and making somebody else feel good about themselves and their little accomplishments. Because little things build over time into big things, right? And the more you do, the more you appreciate the little things that somebody does, the more they want to do for you. But that also doesn't mean that you have to accept and appreciate every little thing if it's not something that you like. If it oversteps your boundary and it's just not, then no. That's also feminine power too. You know, my partner used to smoke and I told him that it really bothered me. And he was like, well, you got together with me when I smoked. And I'm like, yeah, I accept you for who you are. I just don't have to kiss you after you smoked. I'm not going to do it. And after me sticking to my boundary, he quit smoking and then he quit vaping. And I had told him how I want him to get healthy and, you know, eat healthier and exercise and whatever. And he kind of gave me the vibe of like, leave me alone. And I thought to myself, lead by example. How can I start this journey and force somebody else to do it with me by nagging or whatever else? How about I just start myself? How about I get on my own healthy journey and lead by example? So that's exactly what I did. I started exercising again and I started eating healthy and I started losing weight. And he noticed real quick. He's like, wow, you look really good and you have like a glow to you and whatever. Wasn't very long and he started joining me. And you want to know what I did? Instead of rubbing it in his face and be like, see, I told you, which is not good masculine energy. Again, I used to do that. Instead, I praised him and I said, you are doing amazing. I am so proud of you. Look at all of these things that you've accomplished and how hard you're trying. And I really appreciate you joining me in this journey. It makes me feel really good that you want to come out and get healthy with me so that we can be here for a very long time. That works wonders. You don't just do this stuff for like, you know, to be manipulative. You do it from your heart. You actually are, you know, practicing gratitude and you want to praise them and you're very happy. They can feel the difference. They can feel when you're being fake. Practicing positivity is huge. And when you practice positivity, you just want to project that on other people too. And the end result ends up just being like them wanting to do way more for you because it makes them happy to do things for you. It makes them happy to watch you receive. And I'll give you an example. This past Mother's Day, my partner had asked me, what do you want? Give me some hints. I'm stressing. I want to make sure that I get you something that you actually want. Because he knows that gifts are my love language. And I said, you know what? I know you. I know that you know what I like. I know that you know what I want. I fully trust you to get me a beautiful gift because you always do. I will love anything that you get me. It'll be special to me regardless. because you gave it to me out of love. And in my mind, I was thinking to myself, I know exactly what I want. I want an egg chair that I can sit outside. I want sweet treats like some chocolates, and I want pink daisies. He absolutely got me my chair, this massive bouquet of flowers, pink flowers with daisies. I got chocolates, I got my favorite pie, and I got a macrame keychain that was pink. It was super cute. I've always wanted one. And he got me a monkey stuffy because I love monkeys. They're my favorite animal. And he cooked me this huge Mother's Day breakfast. So I got above and beyond just from trusting that he knew best. And I just knew it. I knew that's exactly what I was going to get. Like not the extra stuff, but the three things that I actually wanted. And when he came, I gave him this massive hug and I just cried and cried and said, "Thank you so much. This was beautiful." And he was so happy and so proud of himself. And because this is how I show appreciation, and because I praise him and, you know, just thank him for literally everything instead of nagging and insulting and criticizing, he goes above and beyond. And wherever he goes, he always keeps me in mind. I could have sat there and told him exactly what I wanted, but that would have like ruined the surprise. That wouldn't have been, it would have lost its sparkle, you know? When you nag, criticize, and are just negative in general, nobody wants to do anything nice for you. And nobody wants to do anything out of obligation either. If you're like begging somebody or forcing them in some way, why would you want that anyway? Wouldn't you want somebody to do something out of free will? I think that you just have to be grateful and just let go of everything and literally just practice gratitude for every little blessing in your life. Because when you practice gratitude for everything, you're going to get more. You're going to rid your life of negativity and make room for positive things. I don't put negative energy in my life anymore because if I focus on negative energy, that's what I'm going to get. So I focus on positive things because that's what I want in my life. When you let go of control and you let go of forcing things, you find safety in yourself. And when you find safety in yourself, you build confidence. It takes a lot of practice, but if you look at it as I'm one step further to becoming a healed person rather than I have so far to go, you'll enjoy the journey along the way. Healing and feminine energy is about receiving and letting go of control and letting go of the past and letting blind faith take you where you need to go, letting the divine take you where you need to go, leaving everything up to God and to the universe, and just accepting what comes and rejecting what you don't like, and just keep moving forward. You don't need to chase anything. You just sit back and receive it and feel calm and fix your nervous system, most importantly. You cannot let safety in where chaos is. You just have to rid yourself of all the chaos. That takes time and that takes patience and that takes work. But that's why we need both. That's why we need a little bit of masculine and a little bit of feminine in everybody. But if you wait to be happy and say, when I get this, I'm going to be happy, you will wait forever and you will chase and chase and chase. Because when you get it, you'll be happy for an hour, a day, a week, and then you'll go back to trying to find the next best thing. And you'll just never be happy. You'll never enjoy the journey. You just need to appreciate where you are today and just be open to receiving all the beautiful things that life has to throw at you. And just don't expect negativity in your life. Assume that good is coming to you. Assume that good is here and detach from outcome. But be happy today. Be happy right now. Be thankful right now. Be thankful you woke up. Be thankful you have a roof over your head. Be thankful that you're able to watch this on some kind of device. Be thankful for your family, your friends, your job, your dog, anything. Just be thankful. Focus on the glass as half full and not half empty. And that's how you create beautiful things in your life. That's how you heal from trauma. And that's how you heal your nervous system and put your energies back into alignment. I hope this helps.